It wasn't like I was, I mean, I would make money on shows. That's, you know, that's not a hidden fact. I would make money on shows, put it in my little black box. I literally would just keep this black box that was my stamp holder, and I would keep the cash that I would make in there, but inevitably it would just lose it down the road. And that was always a misconception, you know, because even some of my most dearest, closest friends, every once in a while would make kind of side comments about, oh, well, you made a bunch of money at this other show. And I was like, true. But I just lost 3 times that on this next one. That's always a funny thing that people don't think about, is that they see one thing but don't think about the other. For instance, center stage, I did 2 shows. I did Neurosis one night and Entombed the next night, back to back. I lost $10,000 between those 2 nights, and like Chad Pettit, I'm sure could talk about this quite a bit, but I was playing in Suffer at the time. Well, I had to work 4 full-time jobs, 22 hours a day for almost 6 months. Like now it's inconceivable for me, but I was working at Sid's Liquor, which I don't even drink, which is hilarious, but I was desperate. Because I'd borrowed money from all these friends to pay this, because when I realized that Neurosis was losing money, and then, you know, we did pre-sale tickets, but we all know that in Sioux Falls it was never about the pre-sale, everyone paid at the door, but I just had this fear that Entombed wasn't going to do what it needed to do, and I was like, I'm going to lose real money. Like, that was the most money I'd ever lost up to that point. And I remember when Entombed was done, I just was sitting there like, I don't know. I had to sell my bass. That's why I wasn't in Suffer. I had to sell all my bass equipment. I sold almost everything I owned. I worked courier dispatch at 6 a.m. I was working Ernie November. I was working Safariland Pet Store, and then I was working Sid's Liquor at night. And I would have about 2 hours in between when one would quit and one would go. Not every day of the week, but 4 to 5 days out of the week. And then I remember courier dispatch, my route, courier dispatch is like a delivery service. And I, just by luck, got the route that picked up the food for the banquet halls, and then I delivered the food to the banquet halls. And a lot of times you get there, they're still prepping the food, and it just got to a point where I would just sleep in the cab. They'd wake me up, load it up, and I'd go. So I'd catch all these cat naps while I was paying all my friends back. And to this day, I don't know how I survived, like how I made it. I mean, I lost my girlfriend at the time over it. I lost my band. I lost all my bass equipment. That was the lowest point I think I'd ever been in. Plus, the dance ordinance was going on at the same time. So you can about imagine how I felt like my life was over. But when you're 15 and you're forced into this thing, not forced, but you fell into this thing that hadn't been really done before to that extent, it's kind of hard mentally to wrap your head around it when you realize that a community of people are almost relying on you and almost putting you on a pedestal at some points to do this stuff. And it's a lot of stress for a young man to have.